All right. So good morning, everybody. We are here to read the book Never Forget to Laugh by Carol Howe, and it is a story of Bill Thetford, the co-scribe of A Course in Miracles. And so we'll have the book up here in a second to look at. And I'll put my video off, so you don't need to see that. Look at me on that sunny day. So beautiful. The day, not me. Although I'm beautiful too. I am beautiful, no matter what they say. Words can bring me down. All right. Okay. So, um, would you like me to read, Sharon?
I could
Okay.
read. Where are we?
Okay. We are. We we're going to read this Ken
Okay,
Wapnick, right? Yeah.
Ken Wapnick writes in an unpublished manuscript, The History of the Manuscripts of A Course in Miracles. Oh, this is interesting. Did we read this last week?
We started. We didn't because
Okay, yeah.
we
No, I
talked
could
about
read
it.
it again because I just love the whole story. So anyway,
Yeah.
look at me. I like stories. I wonder what I am. Okay, just telling the truth. What is most important to consider about public exposure of these early manuscripts, the Urtext, the Hugh Lynn Casey version, and a couple of others, is that regardless of the version you reach, you will receive the essential teachings of the course. In that sense, no real harm has been done. In another sense, however, the situation is unfortunate because people could be misled, and at this point, nothing can be done about it, except perhaps to clarify what inquiring students may be reading. Let me cite some examples. There is material in the Urtext about sex and sexuality, an area that will almost certainly pique the curiosity, if not prudent interest of students. Thus, for example, one will read that homosexuality is essentially a pathology. Now, this is good because I want to see what he says here. The traditional psychoanalytic view and analytic review, and that only purpose for sex is procreation. Two positions that are antithetical to Jesus' own teachings in the course, and seeing all forms of the egos as the same. The correction to the ego's first law of chaos, that there is a hierarchy of illusion. To believe that these would be the words and thoughts of Jesus is preposterous and unthinkable. An idea as to believe that I could influence Helen as to what belonged in the course and what did not. It should be obvious that these beliefs belong to Helen and not to Jesus. Helen had her own biases about sex, and unfortunately, they came through in these early passages. Yet those who believe that every word in the Urtext is sacred and are Jesus's words can use statements like these to support their own preconceived notions. This same issue holds, though perhaps with less emotionality, with material related to Edgar Casey, Freud, and other psychologists. Thus, it became very clear to me in the years I knew Helen that I should take with a grain of salt some of the things she said or wrote as coming from Jesus. Now, she's not really saying, I mean, in the book, like when she had that come out, that's just the ego, because the ego is always there, I think, in some way. No teaching can be completely from the vessel of the Christ, I don't think. Anyway, and I don't want to make a blanket statement like that, but what I'm saying is that Helen's not guilty for this either, because this is what came through her, but we need to discern. So it's saying, and this clearly included the earlier text material. Unfortunately, there are also some things that if you do not know the context, you will not understand what they refer to or what they mean. This inevitably means that those who were not present and did not know Helen and Bill will misunderstand much of what is found there. I love this. And I don't want to make anybody wrong because I think curiosity comes into this book. I think that in some ways, like Circle of Atonement, he was curious, and he had led him there, and it's not wrong. But it's respectful to me to respect the scribe because of everything she gave us. She didn't want this stuff in there, really. Anyway, Helen did recognize this periodic corruption of the material where her biases intruded and discussed it with Ken. She may also have talked with Bill about it. But that is only a conjecture, as their relationship was so often discordant. A short while into the text, Helen's resistance relaxed. The dictation flowed evenly and no longer included dialogue or persona material. Yeah, the mind was getting used to the flow, but it takes a while. What does the ego do? Those concepts, they just stop right there and they won't let the essence of truth come through. That's what I'm saying. Bill often commented on how difficult scribing the course was for both of them. Being thoroughly examined by the author makes difficult seem at least an understatement. I can't even imagine what they were like. God. Because, it's just the idea that they're not from this world. They're coming from within Jesus and all the teachings. Already the ego's scared. Both Bill and Helen are on considerable courage to continue their scribal commitment while being in the hot seat with the author. A few examples from the Urtics reveal both the specific nature of some of Bill's issues, remembering they allude to his state of mind at the onset of the course and how universal they really are. And that's truly what I'm saying now, too. Like we all struggle with this course. We all have resistance. There's just one mind waking up. So that's why it's so important to be gentle with our brothers, to be patient with our brothers, to be honest. And honesty is to meet them where they are, not to bring your story into it. We are honest in our essence of innocence, but the ego gets in there and it happens for us, it happened for Helen. They conceived his fear that he was not going to succeed without being special in some way, and that without specialness, everyone would see his unworthiness and thus failure. By the way, Ken indicated that the quotes I've chosen for inclusion in this book are valid, not ones where Helen's personal opinions bled through. Despite his outer success, Bill still harbored resentments and was plagued by a lack of self-worth. Sound familiar? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Sounds familiar to me, guys. The flowering material comes from the early part of the Urtext, which was deleted from the first 6 chapters of published text. The author was equally firm with Helen, but her issues are not the subject of this book. Bill capsulized some words as he typed Helen's notes to denote emphasis, but I have changed them to italics. This message for Bill was relayed to Helen. His real specialness does not stem from exclusion, but from inclusion. All my brothers are special. He should stop interpreting this all except. This is ridiculous. Tell him that the implied lack of love that his version contains is way off the mark and misses the level of right thinking entirely. He must heal his perception in this respect. You and Bill do have special talents which are needed for the celestial speed up at the time. But note that the term speed up is not one which relates to transcending of time. When time is abolished and all the Son of Gods have come home, no special agents will be necessary. But do not estimate the power of special agents now, or great need there is for them. I do not claim to be more than myself. No one in his right mind, a term which should be especially noted, ever wants either more or less than that. Okay, who wants to share now? Gloria, do you want to share now? Oh, I didn't even see your
I
hand.
was just going to
Sorry.
say, I was going to ask Lynn if she could please make it a little bit bigger because I'm having a hard time seeing it.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, I didn't even
But
think
I
about it.
did want to address something in the what you just read about the celestial speed up because I think that's important. I mean, what does it say? There it is. You and Bill do have special talents which are needed for the celestial speed up at this time. But note that the term speed up is not one which relates to the transcending of time. Okay, so what was coming to me with on this, which does come to me on the celestial speed up, is, the miracle takes us out of time. It comes from out of time into time to make that correction from fear to love. But the celestial speed up, as what I'm seeing, is that we just realize that now where we are, and we're accepting the Christ in the now, just accepting the Christ in the now. Anyone else have any thoughts and ideas on that? Celestial speed up?
I think what you said is perfect. I'm just going to say that it was just so perfect.
Like
When
to
you
use in
Your
time.
clarity that comes through is just amazing. And here's the thing, when we realize that he's always talking about now,
Right.
always talking about now. That's
Because
all
this
the
book
time.
was written when, right? This book was written when, but we're reading it now. So the celestial speed up now is the
That's right.
acceptance of the Christ
Yeah.
that I am now and living from that place. That's at least that's how I receive it. Thanks for making
Yeah,
it big.
I
I
like that.
absolutely agree. Anyway, Lynn, you want to read more? Anybody want to read other than
Uh,
Lynn? Because I love the group when they're here because this is a great book. I mean, Carol did an amazing job on this book. Such a great book.
Absolutely. I did want to say
And
also, and
Nikki
I
might
see
want.
Vicky's
Okay.
back. I did want to say also with the celestial speed up, as I see it, that because the miracle abolishes time by actually making what we thought happened never happened. So the celestial speed up is really abolishing time through the miracle. And so yeah, when we forgive whatever the situation is that we experienced as being less than loving, less than kind, less than good, or even the experiences that we considered as great and wonderful, and I would love to be eating this ice cream cone every day for the rest of my life. Those are all things that make time continued. And so when we release that desire for the experience and move into the place where we are just in this moment now, that is the celestial speed up. That is it. We've abolished, all of the time before that and all the time after that. And if we did that consistently, all of us, then we would all be living in this moment now. And there would be no more need for time or space or anything because we're connected completely. So go ahead, Mickey, and then Glorian.
Hi, I'm sorry. I just got back from lesson group. Where is that quote from? The one that ends in
This is from
reference
a
24.
um, history of the scribing of the course that Ken wrote that at this time had not been published, but I think that it has actually been published on the website, on the either the foundation, one of the websites, I believe
Uh-huh.
that was published, but this was just some unpublished work by Ken at
And
the
what
time.
are the special agents?
Um, the special agents are, let's see, what does he say? Because that's a good question. Um, special talents he mentions, uh, just specialness in general. Uh, I'm not sure.
Huh.
That's a very good question we could talk about. Um,
Because one of the quotes that I wrote down from Regina that I love so much was she called our triggers special agents of the Holy Spirit, which I think is brilliant. It just it just said, isn't that cute? It just really made me look at triggers in a very different light and in a more humorous way, because we always take our triggers so seriously. But this is talking about special agents in a different way, and I think it's maybe guides that come from Holy Spirit, or it's not on this first passage. So let's look at that second one and see the context. Or do you want to just read that passage again? And maybe we
I
can
don't know.
figure it.
Well, let's see what Glorian and Marcy. I think Marcy
Yeah.
might have something because
Okay.
uh,
If anybody has insight into that, but I just, that really piqued my interest there of like, who are these special agents and are they helping me? Because I want somebody to come and get me out of this
let me look
business
here
that
to
I'm
see where
in.
this because I this was okay. These are things from the Ur text. So
Or that's no Ken's it just
no,
said
this
Ken.
this no, it's I
Oh
lied.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we had already read that, I think.
Uh-huh.
So this is more in uh, something that came out of the Ur text. Um,
Oh,
so yeah,
okay.
these are things out of the Ur text. So
Alrighty then.
uh, so let me go back and look.
Wait, do me a favor, click on that 24 reference again.
I'm pretty sure it's Ibid.
Ibid,
Yeah,
but from Ken Wapnick, The History of the Manuscripts of A Course in Miracles. So not from the Urtext, but from his history. Oh no,
it
Urtext.
is from the Ur text. Yeah,
It is, you're right.
yeah,
Okay,
they're all from the
so
Ur text. Yeah.
all right, I could go in the Urtext and look up special agents.
Well, ask Robert Perry. He probably knows all about
Oh,
it.
no, that's okay.
Okay. Okay. Glorian, please
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
was going to say I thought maybe it was a good idea if we reread that paragraph also, but because I think in the first line he makes reference to the special agents as his real specialness does not stem from exclusion, but from inclusion. All my brothers are special. So the equality, the innocence, the sinlessness. He should stop interpreting this as all except Bill. This is ridiculous. Tell him that that implied lack of love that his version contains is way off the mark and misses the level of right thinking entirely. He must heal his perception in this respect. So, in other words, nothing special. Everything's the same. You and Bill do have special talents which are needed for the celestial speed up at this time. Okay, so at this point, what it making reference to here is that they can hear the voice for God. Celestial speed up, it came to me as after we spoke about it, that that's the experience of the holy instant now. Celestial speed up. But note that the term speed up is not one which relates to the transcending of time. So, in other words, we're to use the acceptance of the Christ that I am now to experience it now. It's not like we're trying to transcend time, we're using it in time. When time is abolished and all the sons of God have come home, no special agents will be necessary. And I believe that that's meaning all of the idols that we use when seen correctly, when given to spirit to bring us home. That's how I see that. Because, in Christ, nothing special. So special agents to me would have to be the idols and the projections and the different ways that we use ego here in order to return our mind to that holy instant. But do not underestimate the power of special agents now. Okay, so this is all the idols and the different things that keep us from the love of God, the distractions of the ego, or the great need there is for them. So he's saying here that we use the ego to get out of the ego. I do not claim to be more than that myself. No one in his right mind, a term which should be especially noted, ever wants either more nor less than that. So that's how it was coming to me anyway. The special agent.
Or is he saying that Bill and Helen are special agents right now because
Well,
of her special talent to hear the voice,
right. Well, that's
but
it.
they're not going to be needed later on because everybody's going
Hear
to
the
have
voice.
transcended?
I think that when he's making reference to them as special agents, he's saying because they're listening to the inner guide.
Right. Yeah,
But
that's what I think.
we all know that everyone can do that. So he just, even in the course somewhere, he talks about those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. That's in time because in truth, everyone's the same. And
Right.
every seeming body or image that we see has that capacity to listen to that still small voice.
I love that. Great discussion. Thank you so much, Gloria, for bringing that up, and I mean, and Mickey, because yeah, um, yeah, that's it. We all have our special agents, and we're all able to hear something that maybe someone else can't hear. So, right now it is necessary, but in the near future, we're all going to be hearing the same thing. So. I love that. Anyway, that's my thought. Marcy, please go ahead.
So could special agents be a form like angels? If I want to believe in an angel in between moving from one point to the other?
Well, yeah, there are angels, so
Yeah.
they're special agents too.
Okay.
I love that.
I was gonna offer to read if you wanted me to read, but if the dog starts barking, somebody's got to take over
Okay.
whenever
All
you're
right.
done.
So yeah, if you want to read, go ahead.
So where are we?
At the end of a long
Okay.
dissertation.
At the end of a long dissertation on the confusion about communication and knowledge, the author listed 4 general statements about the misuse of knowledge as we understand the world, not as the course uses it, and then specifically called their attention to this list. Knowledge can be misinterpreted as a means of possession. Here, the content is not physically, and underlying fallacy is more likely to be a confusion of mind and brain. The fallacious use of knowledge can result in several errors, including the idea knowledge will make the individual more attractive to others. This possession fallacy
This is possession fallacy.
oh, does it say that?
Yeah, this is
Oh yeah,
possession.
this is possession fallacy. Okay.
Then you want to read on?
Yeah. The
Okay.
idea that knowledge will make the individual invulnerable. This is the reaction formation against the underlying fear of vulnerability. And I always have a question about reaction formation whenever it comes up because my mind goes blank. I know what it is, and I never can remember what reaction formation is.
Acting the opposite of what you feel.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Should I go on?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead and read all
Okay.
all of these.
Okay. The idea that knowledge will make the individual worthy. This is largely pathetic. Both you and Bill should consider type, all of the above, very carefully. Like all these fallacies, it contains a denial mechanism which swings into operation as the fear increases, thus canceling out the error temporarily but seriously impairing efficiency. Thus you claim that you can't read, and Bill claims that he can't speak. Note that depression is a real risk here, for a child of God should never reduce his efficiency in any way. The depression comes from a particular pseudo solution which reads, a child of God is efficient. I am not efficient. Therefore, I am not a child of God. This leads to neurotic resignation and this is a state which merely increases depression. However,
Wow.
should I?
Can we just stop here then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is really funny. First off, what made me really laugh is when he said, the idea that knowledge will make the individual worthy. This is largely pathetic. That cracked me up. Jesus is like, he's so clear. But also, I think pathetic has to have been Helen's word, that he may have said something and she heard pathetic because that was her thought about it. It's pathetic. So, what is he saying here? Um, these are the confusions that we have about knowledge, that we think that knowledge will bring about something that is going to be helpful to us, but in reality, is going to bring about these errors because of our belief in what we are. So the idea that knowledge will make the individual more attractive to others, this is possession fallacy. The idea that knowledge will make the individual invulnerable. This is the reaction formation
Mm.
against the fear of vulnerability. The idea that knowledge will make the individual worthy. This is pathetic. And then the fourth, all of the above. um, it contains a denial mechanism which swings into operation as the fear increases, thus canceling out the error temporarily, but seriously impairing efficiency. And that's, believe me, when he says, you say that you can't read, and Bill says that he can't speak, thinking that, I'm not capable of doing what it is that I'm being asked to do, that somehow I'm just a poor, pitiful thing that is lacking, everybody but Bill, everybody but Helen, it's really, if Jesus really did say this to her, it just is another one of those things that you just have to laugh your ass off because he's really poking at them. And he's saying, you come up with this whole idea where you can say then a child of God is efficient. I'm not efficient, so I'm not a child of God. Well, then that lets me out and I don't have to deal with any of this crap because I'm special. I'm the outlier. And Jesus is like, that's pathetic. You're not the outlier. Give it up. You're not special. I love it. Uh, anyway, Glorian has her hand up, and so does Mickey. Go ahead, Glorian.
Yeah, this is great. And it's really getting deep into some of the thoughts and ideas. Where he was talking about denial mechanism, that's denying our worthiness is established by God so that we can say, I can't do this, I can't do that, and make excuses for it. Where he was talking in the page before about acquired learning, he was talking about knowledge, but knowledge is not acquired learning. Knowledge is the experience of the oneness that I am. So I think he's pointing out that, whatever we think we're learning is still an aspect of the illusion, and we're actually accomplishing nothing until we let go of that definition of knowledge and accept the experience of what we are. And the word that he used, pathetic, I think that this is just basically pointing out again and again why it was important for Ken and Bill and Helen to sit down and fine tune all of this, with Jesus, and why, because the idea is pathetic is judgment. And could judgment have been coming from Jesus? Not, I think not. So I think when Helen was originally channeling this stuff, some of her personality came in. And you can see that in that purple book. That, to me, any statement that they're saying Jesus says something that's a judgment, it just doesn't feel right to me. So I don't see it that way. But that could be for me, but I'm just pointing it out. He used the word pathetic. I mean, I don't see him using a word like that to describe something. Thanks.
Yeah, that's why I think that was Helen's word. But it was interpretation of something that she heard, and she said pathetic because these are the course is Helen's words. Be very sure that Jesus did not actually say words to Helen. She said that he did not speak in words. I just heard what he said and wrote it down. So and it was through her own did Jesus know about reaction formations? Jesus was a psychologist now. He got a PhD in psychology. No, that's Helen. So, I can see why this was taken out. But also, I agree with you, that he does laugh at us a lot in the course, but he doesn't judge us. He's not saying you're not worthy yet to hear this. He just says, stop being so silly. And honestly, if we're honest with ourselves and we stop being so silly, we actually will begin to see how, I mean, don't be embarrassed because you will be. You're going to look and say, oh my God, how could I have thought that way? Anyway, Mickey, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is why I like to make a real distinction between knowing and knowledge. Knowing, or I like to call it the difference between knowing and learning. Knowing is the felt state from God, and knowledge or learning is us, being able to learn where in the course it says this or that, or being able to quote, what section something is in. But if you turn the page, Lynn, that, pardon me, that the idea that knowledge will make the individual worthy. First of all, there is no individual. There are no personalities. I don't exist. That's what makes it doubly pathetic, because if I think anything I learn and can impart to somebody else means anything, no, each of us must come to the place where we experience the felt state of God, or we're nowhere, or we're just listening to the ego and we're thinking that me, and I start meing all over the place and think that Mickey has any bearing whatsoever in the state that I'm trying to attain of knowing God. That it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. So you got to laugh.
You do have to laugh.
you know, we all we all really have to laugh if we think anything that we're learning here, these little lessons, yeah, they all come together hopefully into the state of knowing. But if we think anything we can, you know, say in words means anything, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so get over yourself. And so I think what Jesus is saying here, get over yourself. This is not only is it not helpful, it really is not taking us to that knowledge, that connection to the love of God, which is, I mean, what the point of all of this is to remember that we're connected, that we're loved, that we're one with God. That's the purpose of all of this. So, all the rest of it is just, I mean, it can become very intellectual and very theoretical, and you can have all sorts of, ideas. What does he mean by light? This, that, don't try to interpret, don't try to understand. There is no understanding of this. There's only experiencing. So thank you for that, Mickey. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mickey. That I love that, because that's the idea, is that we recognize that knowledge is not acquired learning, more like the unlearning that brings us to the experience of what we are, which is knowing and knowledge. So I love that. I also wanted to say to what you said, Lynn, I think it's very important to repeat this, or at least for me. And when Helen was receiving the voice for God. The voice for God is really a voice of thoughts that are different from the incessant chatter of the ego. So it was an impartation, not necessarily, him speaking to an impartation of thoughts and ideas. And that's why different like words come into different channels. Like somebody's background certainly does come into play because that's God is expressing as. So that's why even where Jesus says in the course that, when the student is ready, the teacher appears and he's led to that person whose curriculum is perfect for him or her. And I think that means, for example, if somebody's an artist, maybe they'd be in some form attracted to a teacher who's expressing it that way. Helen was a psychologist, so those of us intellectual are attracted to that kind of thing. And, other people might be attracted to more of a mystical impartation. So I really don't think we can judge it, but what comes to me is, and it comes to me really from reading that purple book, some of the stuff in the back, that had to be Helen's feelings getting, her perception. Some of it was still perception in the beginning, getting mixed in because I cannot see any impartation coming through in any way as judgmental. And I think we've discussed this before, some of the stuff in the front. And um, at least for me, I know I don't receive it that way. It does it if I'm truly listening to the still small voice, so sometimes I think it'll come through different words, but the judgment part, that means ego was coming in and out because the Christ doesn't judge. It doesn't separate. It doesn't compare. Now we do use words as symbols, but I think, at least for me, it comes through in a more not a judgmental sense where we're going to be saying somebody's pathetic and stuff like that. It just not for me anyway. Thanks.
Yeah. I agree, and thank you for that, Gloria, and I appreciate that very much as well. So and it's what appeals what appeals to me. Speaking about knowledge, I heard like a comedian a little short yesterday, and it was a woman. She was speaking. I was just really taken by something that she said, and she was talking about Adam and Eve in the Bible. And in the Bible, God said to Adam, "Do not eat of the tree in the center of the garden, the tree of good and evil, whatever." So the serpent said to Eve, "Hey, taste this. It's pretty darn good." And Eve said to Adam, "Let's taste this." Now, Adam could have just said, "Hey, no, God said don't do it," and that would not have happened. But he said, "Okay." And so they did, and everybody blamed Eve forever. But Adam was the one that got the got the rule, and he was the one that said okay. So anyway, that's about knowledge. If you know, uh, and I guarantee you, thinking about it, allegorically, if God knew what kind of mayhem was going to ensue from them learning about the knowledge of good and evil, which is the story of judgment, the knowledge of judgment. If God was cognizant of the what all kind of crazy crap we would make up once we decide, oh, good and evil, right and wrong, this is how things should and shouldn't. Uh, God would never have participated in it. It just doesn't seem likely that God would have participated, but God did not participate in any way at all in the mayhem that did ensue. I guess that I'm just recognizing that on some level, though, and from reading The Impersonal Life and from reading Joel Goldsmith, God is expressing through us in this world of illusion. So, because God's not absent in this world of illusion, but God is not experiencing the story that we're experiencing, but we are experiencing it, I don't know, for God? I don't know. That's off the mark here with this particular, but maybe not, because it's this whole question of what is my relationship with God, and how is God involved in what's happening to me, or what has happened, or what is going to happen. Uh, I don't know, Gloria, and please go ahead.
Yeah, I love where you've gone with this, Lynn, and that's like so important, and that recognition that God is expressing as, but the expression of the extension of the love that we've received for ourselves, that we've accepted for ourselves, because that's as we were created as extensions of this love of God, and there's only love. I was coming to me when you were speaking about that, what Jesus tells us in the course about, you know, Holy Spirit sees what we see, but believes it not. So we can choose, that's where we make that choice to align our mind with Christ's vision and see it differently. And I like what you were saying too, because that's how I feel about it. If it's judgment, any judgment that's coming through, whether it's pathetic or whether he's saying you should or should not have sex or whatever else it was that we spoke about last week. Um, if it's judgment, it's duality and it's based on good, bad, right, and wrong. So that's disempowering because that's coming from what I would seem as the authority of the ego, because Jesus wouldn't be making a decision in duality to say that. And that goes against the first the 50 lessons where he's talking that I give everything all the meaning that it has for me. So if I'm making a judgment as something being good, bad, right, wrong, I'm in that ego, and we're being asked to recognize that we're giving it that meaning from an ego place of being, but we can reinterpret it with the Holy Spirit, with Christ's vision. So in that sense, we use it. And the recognition that nothing that we seemingly label good, bad, right, wrong is our salvation, even the good. This is not our salvation. But we're being asked to recognize beyond these seeming beliefs, which are lies, concepts, images, is that eternal light of God. That's the only correct perception that only equals or at peace, recognizing Christ's face. He tells us, look for Christ's face in everyone. The idea of not Jesus's face, the Christ, the oneness that I am, the light beyond the concepts that doesn't have anything opposing it. So that's how I see it. It comes to me that if we're in any kind of judgment, we're back under that authority of the ego. And we can look at that in the authority problem. And it goes back to what we were talking about last night, that this is all under the authority of the ego, which needs to be looked at and then, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently, and looked on with Christ's vision. And I really love where he does say that, that Holy Spirit sees what we see, but believes it not. So when he talks about the Son of God is here to recognize he's dreaming, that's exactly what he means. That we can align our mind with the Christ, and that's it. We become the witness and the observer that this seeming world, this seeming projection, the seeming duality is separate and apart from what I am. Thanks so much.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Glorian, for that clarification. And I love that, all of it. Let's see. So let's read on a little bit. Let's see, we have a few more minutes. Um, and uh, I guess I can read unless somebody else wants to. I put the see all the big old group of folk are here. Look at us. Look at you, beautiful people. Okay, so however uninviting these messages were, Bill did take them to heart and diligently practice reaching out to others. As he took the steps offered him in the course, he became more than willing to spend a great deal of time with many people in order to help them. He lavished attention on those with whom he had strong connections, as well as in more casual encounters. For many of us, he was our greatest cheerleader, inspiring us to take our next steps, both internally and externally, and helping each other to let go of whatever was in our way. modern day disciples, perhaps. As one person stated, I just can't imagine anyone else playing that kind of inspirational role, and for so many of us. He was also willing, as a demonstration of love, to do things he really didn't care to do, but he honored those who asked if his guidance so dictated. Do not mistake this for being wimpy, having no boundaries, or being unable to say no. For sure, when Bill felt it was not right for him to do something, nothing in heaven or earth could move him from his position. He really lived this admonition. And here we are, this thing that we've been talking about too. Suppose a brother, this is from the course, suppose a brother insists on having you do something you think you do not want to do. His very insistence should tell you that he believes salvation lies in it. If you insist on refusing and experience a quick response of opposition, you are believing that your salvation lies in not doing it. You then are making the same mistake he is, and are making his error real to both of you. Insistence means investment, and what you invest in is always related to your notion of salvation. And we talked about this quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. That it Because it's not about what is being done. It's not doing the thing. The thing it has is neutral. It has no right, wrong, up, down. Everything we do here in this world is neutral. But for some people, it's just like, my situation with my husband and my wife. That, to me, he was insisting that that was his salvation. He truly believed it, and still, now, is very convinced that, yeah, that was absolutely the best thing. Um, I absolutely believe that it was not the best thing. But I read Jesus telling me it's because you think that's your salvation. And if you think that's your salvation, then it's going to hurt you. So, recognize my salvation is not in some marital contract or cultural observation. I have nothing to do with that. Those are all things that have to do with a world that is not only doesn't exist, it's useless. And there is no value in any of it, except for the love that's in it, and the lessons that we learn from it. So I love that he really lived that admonition, that, look at what you think is your salvation. And, if you think it's your salvation for, you know, anything, just think about it. What I think is my salvation, that's the thing that is going to uh, put me in opposition to my brothers. My insistence on holding on to it is what's going to break the family. Uh, Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, this is everything's here so that we recognize its meaninglessness and that we're giving it the meaning that it has for us, not based upon somebody else's mad idea of what's right and what's wrong, but we're the world we see, we're giving meaning to. So I think everything here is there to show us its meaninglessness and that we're giving it the meaning. So we take responsibility and we recognize that what we think we is our salvation is really the blocks to love's presence, the idols, the specialness. And once we get to the place where Jesus tells us salvation comes from my one self, united with my creator. And that's the true trust of the cause. If we accept what we are and our identity as we were created, as the Christ, as love, then everything else just falls into place. So anything, if we're not experiencing ourselves as that, we're giving meaning to the meaningless. And it's the block to love's presence, our ideas of sin, guilt, judgments, grievances, whatever we want, however we want to term the manifestation of the ego presenting itself to keep us apart from what we are.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Yeah, yeah. And you know, how sad, how sad our world has been because of this these beliefs that are absolutely meaningless. Just look at how much suffering has come about because of our insistence on something that is really meaningless. That's all I can say. Meaningless is the word. It's the word. Uh, all right, let's see. We have about 5 more minutes. Would anybody like to read? Gloria, did you want to read?
Well, I was just going to share one other thing that, we were talking about this morning, whatever. If we recognize that we give everything the meaning it has for us, for example, we can take King Solomon in the Bible and we can say that was a horrible man, okay, with harems and all kinds of different things. But when he was
Love it.
able to get his ego out of the way, he was able to hear and receive the wisdoms. That's another example of how we really cannot judge anyone or anything and recognize that we're giving it that meaning. Because most people would be like, oh my goodness, but look, I really truly believe that that's the example that was set there in that story. Because everyone, I mean, especially as, feminists would be like, this was a terrible man. And that's our ego judgment. But if we recognize when he was able to get that ego out of the way, he was able to hear the wisdoms. And that's what we're all being asked to do, to get our ego out of the way. And then we can hear that still small voice. And in fact, when I was looking at the book that we're going to begin tonight, in the back, there's a whole section on the still small voice. And honestly, and I think everyone who knows me knows that in my heart, which is my soul, is that feeling that that is the way out of hell. If we develop that communication link with the higher self, with the higher mind, then we're constantly following the direction of spirit and giving our life to the service of the spirit. And that's what I feel we're being asked to do, because then we can be in that space where we recognize that we can have that holy instant now. That would be like we were talking about the celestial speed up. If we're in that Christ mind, which is the only reality, then what else do we ever need? So I think the Celestial Speed Up, that book was written in whatever year it was, and here we are now. There's only now where we can accept that. And we can accept it with once we let go of the judgments of what we think we know that we're projecting out there on the world, on our brother, giving it the meaning that it has for us, which is really there to teach us its meaninglessness, so that we're willing to get to that space of surrender of the ego and in favor of listening to that still small voice, which will direct and guide us and lead us out. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And yeah, boy, that's yeah, that's it. That's it exactly. And wow, can't really add to that. We have a couple minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and close the book. Gloria, which book are we doing tonight? Is it the parenthesis?
Yeah, I did want to talk to you on that. It's the Thunder of Silence. In the back is the Sermon on the Mount.
Okay.
Now, when I was looking at the book, I don't know if we should go to the back and then go back to the part one, but the whole entire thing is discussing and really introducing us to the experience of that transcendental consciousness. So when I opened it, it kind of was like, why don't we just begin in the beginning? But I'm going to leave that up to you because you did want the Sermon on the Mount. However, tonight, I think I'm going to just start with the introduction as I'm being led, because it's written by Joel and it's just beautiful, and it's really something that I think would be the foundation of continuing with this book. So whatever you feel on that, I'm going to go with. But if I begin tonight with the introduction, you'll have some time to think about it. Thunder of Silence.
All right, so I just went and got that book. So it's in my Kindle,
Oh,
and
cool. Yeah, I'm going to start with the introduction, when we come in, and then I figured I'll just read through that, and then we can go on with our discussion. And then if we were going to do this, I do this fourth Tuesday, but if you wanted to do it second and fourth, I could do that. So that week, but so you let me know what you think. But it is the entire book is the foundation of transcendental consciousness. The third part is about the Sermon on the Mount. So we could jump there and jump back. You let me know what you'd like.